Any further thoughts on the election and how we can use this campaign? Because Tulsi, I think, is somebody who would have a sympathetic ear to this, and it's very possible that if we can get her on the debate stage, I don't think she can win, but she needs like 20,000 more donors in order to get on the debate stage. She might be more willing to raise this issue than Bernie. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been very impressed by Tulsi Gabbard. To be clear, in the past, she's had some really odious, very bad views, but she's moved to the left over the years. I think she's seen the light in a lot of this, and she's really grown organically. And you can see it through her social media, and she's been quite impressive, especially in the past several months. She's on Twitter quoting Noam Chomsky. She's really hitting hard the regime change war problem, which is really impressive because I can't think of a single other politician in the US raising these issues. You know, I respect Bernie a lot and he's doing a lot of good work, but his weakness has always been foreign policy and international politics. He's always been much more focused on domestic politics. And that's great. But of course, as president, international politics is the most important thing. You're
Yeah.
the commander of the US empire. So, you know, I think Bernie's getting better on it. He definitely has gotten much better since I remember 2015. I remember following his campaign, even before actually, because I've been following Bernie for a while. But Tulsi is great because she has made this the key part of her platform, which no other Democrat has done, and I think no other Democrat will do, making foreign policy the most important part of their campaign. You know, my analysis is I think Tulsi is running a kind of protest campaign. I'm not in any way trying to discount the seriousness and the importance of her running for president, but you know, she's still relatively new to politics and to Congress. She's still relatively young. She's got a long political career ahead of her. And I think she is right now, she's punching above her weight, which is very impressive. And she's really making political and really human sacrifices because it's exhausting and difficult to run for president because she cares so much about making these important issues that are discussed. And she's going to be, I think, the only candidate in the Democratic debates. And as you mentioned, she's close to getting the 65,000 donors she needs to get into the debates, and I think she'll make it. There's a grassroots campaign that's growing, and she will be the one on the stage who will be committed to raising these problems, to making regime change wars an issue, talking about Syria and Libya, talking about Russiagate, which has just collapsed.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, a lot of people on the left, especially the kind of softer social democratic left who are afraid of being seen as too socialist and too radical, the problem is that they have seen these issues as issues that can either be ignored or they can kind of toe the establishment neoliberal democratic line in order to not cause trouble. Because we see if you're Ilhan Omar, if you're Tulsi, you're going to be smeared. You know, Ilhan smeared as an anti-Semite, Tulsi smeared as an Assadist who's working with the Kremlin. And that does a lot of political damage. So a lot of people have avoided those issues. But the problem with that approach is that these issues have really helped fuel not just the right, but the far right. The war in Syria, the regime change war, created the world's largest refugee crisis since the end of World War II. There are 6 million Syrian refugees, not to mention the Iraqis, of course, from the Iraq War, the refugees from the war in Yemen, which we will talk about. In order to talk about why the far right is on the rise in Europe, we have to talk about these regime change
Yes.
wars. And we have to oppose these wars, just as here in the United States, we have to talk about the US wars in Central America and the destabilization campaigns against socialist and independent governments in Latin America, which overthrows states, turns them into narco states like in Honduras and El Salvador and these other countries where you have massive rates of violence. And like they tried to do in Nicaragua last year. And that fuels the refugee crisis because as we saw with the so-called migrant caravan, many of those people were fleeing Honduras and fleeing these countries where the US has backed military coups and right-wing dictatorships. So Tulsi Gabbard, much to her credit, although on some issues she's been pretty bad in the past, she has really gotten good on this. And she's talking about it a lot. She went on Stephen Colbert's show, and for the first time, she talked about Syria in a way that Stephen Colbert has never talked about. She talked about, for the first time I've ever seen a mainstream Democratic candidate talk about the importance of nuclear peace treaties being signed and moving away from the precipice of nuclear war and complete global annihilation. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could talk about there, but I think it's very refreshing. And I'm really hoping, and I think her strategy, you know, I've interviewed Tulsi, I know people in her campaign. I'm not at all trying to say that they've told me this, not at all. They did not give me a clue about this. This is what I'm construing on my own. It's my own opinion, but I get the impression that one of the reasons she's running is to try to move Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and the other people who are more likely to win to the left on foreign policy, because she understands that if she's on the debate stage, that she can make Bernie take these issues more seriously.
Yeah.
And regardless of what you think about Tulsi, I don't know how anyone can complain about the fact that she can help Bernie get better politically. That's a great thing.
Yes, I think she should be talking about these issues on the debate stage, and I think she should be talking about it on my show. Unfortunately for me, her new communications director is a fellow Bernie delegate from Northern California. We were in the trenches together at the Philadelphia convention, and he knows me and he trusts me and he's going to recommend me, so I'll be able to ask her these questions very shortly.